Okay, good evening, students. Here we just go to the PHP. Now, this is not a difficult lesson, but there are a few things you should understand. Now, remember this PHP is one of the server-side programming. Now, HTML can be used to describe the structure and the format of the web page, but we cannot do the programming. Programming means addition, subtraction, multiplication, looping, selection. Like these cannot be done with the HTML language or CSS. But PHP is the language which is very powerful language which can be executed on the server, and a lot of programmings can be done, especially if you want to create a loop, or if you want to make a selection, if then else, or if you want to do some calculation, addition, subtraction, multiplication. For that purpose, we can use a PHP. And most of these popular websites like Facebook, Yahoo, Wikipedia, like those are developed using this language. Now, PHP stands for PHP Hypertext Preprocessor, and it has an interpreter, not the compiler. Therefore, it may be a bit slow. We know that compiling programs are much faster. Now, to run the PHP, we want to have the PHP server. We want to save the data in the server. So it's a server-side scripting language or programming language where you have to execute these PHP codes in the server. Now, when you take this very popular content management systems like Joomla, Drupal, like those content management systems also developed by using PHP. And PHP has built-in support for the MySQL database. So therefore, you can do database programming with the PHP. Now we need to have these components in the PHP server as a parser to run the PHP scripts, and web server should be there to store the PHP codes, and database management system should be there. Now all these are provided by a very popular software package called as XAMPP. Now by using this XAMPP package, we can run the PHP codes. So XAMPP actually the X means cross-platform. That means it works with multiple operating systems. A means Apache is a web server. It's a open source web server. M is for MySQL. P is for PHP installation. P is for the Perl scripting language. Now you can download this through the internet. Once you download it, you will get this interface given here, and you can run the Apache web server, and the MySQL server can be executed based on your requirements. And when you create the HTML codes, remember when you install this in a machine, let's say you install the C drive. In that case, you get a folder in the C drive called as XAMPP. And once you go to the C drive, you go to the XAMPP folder. Inside the XAMPP folder, you get these three folders. Under that, there will be a folder called as htdocs. So htdocs is a folder where you can save your PHP scripts. Once you write the PHP codes, you have to save this in the folder called as htdocs, which will be located in your C drive and XAMPP folder. Just go there and see the htdocs and store your files there. Now let's see the very simple PHP codes. Now remember, to write the PHP codes, you need to start with the question marks and PHP and ended by question marks. So then remember, to start you need to have question marks with PHP, this one, and this is the end of the PHP codes. So this should be there for the PHP code. So that indicates the starting and the end of the PHP codes. As shown this example, I want to display the context. Then you can use the method available called as a echo. Either you can use double quotation like this, or single quotation should be used. Then this will be displayed on the browser. And remember, each line should be ended by semicolon. So either single quotation, double quotation can be used. When you are running, remember, you have to use the word localhost and the port number given And if you create the subfolder inside the htdocs, and this is the file you have saved as a PHP code. So all the files you can save with any name, but the file extension should be .php. So whenever you write the PHP codes, save with this name, and the extension should be PHP. So these are very simple PHP codes. Then you should remember all the PHP codes should start with question marks with PHP, ended by question marks. I think it's clear to all. Then remember to display the content. Either you can use the function called echo or print. One of them can be used. Remember, for these functions, either you can use a capital or simple, doesn't matter. Either you use a bracket, doesn't use a bracket, no matter. You get the same output. So therefore, when you're writing the function names, remember these function names, either you can have capital or simple, no matter. Or you can use a single quotation, and you can use a brackets like this. Parentheses can be used. And each line should be ended by semicolon. Just remember that. And then the output will be appeared in the same line like this when you run it. So then just keep in mind, for the function names, either capital letters or simple letters can be used. And either you can use single quotation, double quotation can be used. And the brackets are optional. Either you can use a bracket or you may not use a bracket, doesn't matter. Just keep that also in mind. And the comments, now we know that to add the comments, either you can use a double slash or hash. Or multiple lines, you can use a slash star and star slash. So that is how you can add the comments, so that which can be used to explain your codes. Either you can use a double slash, two slashes, or hash. For multiple lines, you can have the slash star and star slash to write the comments. Just keep in mind how to add the comments in the PHP. Remember to create the variables in PHP, all the variables should start with the dollar sign. That's the key thing you should remember. All the variables in the PHP should start with the dollar sign. And you can give a name. So when you give the names, again you have to remember, names should start with the letters or underscore, just like other languages. And all the variable names should not be started with the numbers. And again, you can't use the special characters except underscore or at hash, like those characters cannot be used. Most importantly, now I told you when you are creating the function names can be either capital or simple, doesn't matter. But remember the variable, you can't do that. In a variable, if you change the letters capital simple, they are two variables, not the same variable. Just like a Python. So you know Python also capital simples are matters. Similarly, for the variables in the PHP, capital simples are two different things. But for the functions, either you can use capital or simple, doesn't matter. I think it's clear to all. Now, this is how you can print the variables. Now here I'm creating a variable name as age, which is 20, and this is another variable. And you can display using this echo or print. You can display the values. So that will print the values of the variables. Now the variable age is 20 and the name. So those will be printed. Now, if you want to print strings and again the variable, you can do the same thing again. But again, there's a difference. You have to be very careful when you're working with the double quotation, single quotation with the variables. Now here, this is the variable. But here, I am having the variable within the double quotation. But here I am having the variable in the single quotation. Remember the double quotation, the value of the variable will be displayed like this. But in the single quotation, it displays as it is. It doesn't take the value of the variable. So therefore, you need to keep in mind when you're working with the variables with the PHP, when you use a double quotation, okay, when you use a double quotation, value will be displayed like this. But when you use a single quotation, remember the variable name will be displayed as it is, not the value. That's the key point. You have to just remember when you're working in the variables. Now, if you want to include the HTML tags within the PHP code, that's possible. As an example here, in this case, if I want to use the heading 1 tag, you can use it here. So then it will be displayed with the heading 1. If you want to be bold and underline, again you can use the tags. HTML tags can be placed within the PHP codes. So you can include the tags all within the functions. Then you get the same meaning for the tags like in HTML. These are some mathematical operators that are there: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Modulus is a remainder. Exponential is a power. So you can use these mathematical operators when you're working with the PHP. Now this is a very simple example. We have two variable: A is 20, B is 7. First one is addition of the two numbers and store as another variable as C. Second one is subtraction. Third one is a multiplication. Fourth one is a division. Next one is a remainder and exponent. So then you get the output like this. So then you can print the values and display the outputs. So then you can do the mathematical operation with the PHP codes. That means through the web, you can do some mathematical operations. The operator precedence, like we know, this operator precedence, in the same level, you have the multiplication, division, and the integer division. After that, addition, subtraction, and then the less than, equal, greater than equal, and equal, not equal, and operation, operations after that. So like these are some mathematical operator precedence that you should be used when you're going to make the calculation. Now as an example given here, first of all you have to complete the bracket. 4 into 8, 32. 32 minus 2, 30. 30 divided by 10 is 3. This one. This one you multiply 4 into 2, 8, 32. 32 minus 2, 32, 2 divided by 10, that means 0.2. 32 minus 0.2 is 31.8, like that. You get the different values accordingly. So then you have to look at the operator precedence. Then these are some PHP assignment operators. First one is for get the value. Then the next one is x equal x plus y. The next one is x equal x minus y, and x equal x into y, x equal x divided by y, x equal x remainder by y. Like you can write these shortcuts when you're going to work with mathematical operators. As given this example, first a is 10 and b, c, d, e all are 5. Then I have written b equals b plus c. That means 10 plus 5, 15. Then I wrote c equals c minus a. That means c is 5. 5 minus 10 is minus 5. Then the d equals d into a. D is 5, 5 and 10 is 50. E equals e divided by a. E is 5, 5 divided by 10 is 0.5. Like that. So then just remember the shortcut operations mathematically we can use it. And these are the comparison operators: equal. Identical means you look at the equality with the value and the data type. not equal, there are two symbols, not identical, greater than, less than, no equal, greater than, no equal. Like you can use this comparison operators when you're working with some programs. Then already we have learned these control structures like if, then, else, do, while, for, like these things can be done with the PHP also. But syntax is a bit different. Now, if you want to write the if, then, else, we have to use the word if, bracket, and starting we represent by curly brackets, and also represented by curly brackets. So these curly brackets are the one which indicate the starting point and end points if the condition is true. Else mean condition is false, starting here, end here. So therefore you need to use the curly brackets when you're working with if condition. Like you can have the multiple if conditions. Else if together one word can be used actually. Else if as a one word. As an example here, we input the age as an input. Then you check whether age is less than 30. If it is less than 30, we just say your age is less than 30. Else, if you check whether age is between 30 and 40. Else, if you check whether age is between 40 and 50. Else, we just print that one. So then remember you can use the word else if, word together, or else if together or with the spacing. Both are working. Just remember those points. And switch statement can be used if there are multiple comparisons to match each value. Switched an expression, you can have the each case. Default is if the condition is false. As an example, with rand function will generate a number between randomly 0 to 4. That is a rand function which generates a number between 0 to 4 randomly, any number. And once you generate that number, if the number is 0, you display 0 point. Please try again. If it is 1, you display 1 point, try more. If it is 2, you say 2 points, nice. If it is 3, you just say 3 points once more to reach out. Case 4, if it is 4, you just say 4 points, you want. Like that, based on the value, you can decide what to do with the case statement. Just remember the syntax, how to write with the case statement. Then the arrays, remember the main advantage of the arrays. We can do this with the PHP using the list. The array advantage is with a single name, lot of values, large number of values can be saved. That is the advantage of the arrays actually. Array is a data structure which can be used to work with some programming. The main advantage of the array is, remember, single name, but many values can be stored in the single name, and you can access to the values through the index number. As an example, if I have 3 cars, car 1, car 2, car 3, you can store value like this by creating 3 variables. So car 1 is one variable, car 2 is another variable, car 3 is another variable, like that. So for 3 cars, you can create 3 variables. But about if I have 300 cars, they have to create 300 variables, which is very difficult. That is a place you can use arrays, where you can create very easily 300 arrays with the same variable name without having 300 variables. That's the advantage of the array. So in this one, you can see you create an array. How do you create an array? You have to use the word array. You have to use the name as array. And this will create an array, and these are the values, 3 values. And if you count, you can count how many values are there actually. Then you can access to these values using the index number. This is how you can create the array. And you can access to the values of the array using the index number. Remember, the very first one is index number is 0. And index number 1, index number 2, like that. You can access to each value using the index number. But same name, you can see same name. We are not using multiple names. Same name will be used. That is the advantage of the array. You can create thousands of variables with a single name. This example, here I have created an array. We have the values 120, the word Toyota, and then 345, true, false, 34, like. Then you can access to each value. First value is index number 0, next value is index number 1, next is index number 2, next is index number 3. Like you can access to each value using the index number. This is another example. Here I create an array. You can see first value is index number 0 is 120, index number 1 is Toyota. And then I change the value of the index number 0 to Nissan and index number 1 to 400. Then if you display the values 0 and 1, you can see you get the new value Nissan and 400. So like that, remember the array values can be changed, modified. And then you can access to the new value using the index number. At the same time, you can add the new values to the array. As an example, this array index number 0 is 120, index number 1 is 20, index number 2 is 345, 0, 1, 2, 3, 3 is true, 4 is false, 5 is 34. And 6, index number 6, I'm setting the value test. Index number 7, I'm placing the value 700. Then you can display the values. Then you have the special array called the associate array, PHP. In that one, actually, value and the array can be combined together. As an example, you can put something meaningful. Let's say this is the name of the person, and this is the age, like that. This is the person name, and this is the age of that person. And this is the person name, this is the age of the person. Now, you have the two key and the value, which is we call as associate array. Nice. In that case, if I want to know what is, if I want to set the Peter's age, Ben's age, or Joey's age, you can set like this. Or you can set like this. Whatever method you like, you can set the values. And then you can get the value. You can see here, if I want to find the age of the Peter, you can use the age Peter. Then that will give you the value of the Peter, like this. Then the most important part with the PHP, remember, is form handling. That means once you create a form, how do you get the value? Now, the previous class we discussed about forms handling, how to create a form. Now, when you are creating a forms, remember you need to have two things. One is action, other one is a method. So then in the form, there are two attributes, mainly the action and the method. The method can be a post or method can be a get. Remember, get is insecure because your variable value display in the URL. Therefore, it is better to always use the post method, which is very secure. You cannot see the variable values in the URL. And again, that is security-wise, post is better. Only problem with the post is you cannot create a bookmarking. That's the only problem. Other than that, post is method with compared to get method. And remember, this action is the one which will be executed when you click the submit button. As an example, once you write the name here and once you write the email here, when you click the submit button, this file welcome.php will be executed. That is a file which decide what to do for these values. Maybe you save this in a database, maybe you process something, like whatever things you are going to do will be displayed or described by the what we call this action. So that will describe what to do when you click on the submit button. So in this case, actually, when the user fill these values, remember the value here will be identified by this variable name. And the value is stored here will be identified by this variable email. Because when you fill the value inside the text box, somewhere they are stored in the memory, and memory will be accessed by this variable. So this will get the name of the person, this will get the email of the person. So then that is done with those two names actually. That is variable name. Now in this case, what I want to do is when the user fill the form, by giving these values, when the user fill this form, I want to display a welcome with the name and your email address is this one. So then I want to get the value which is they are inside the text box. Then how do I get them? Remember, this is the HTML code to create the forms, and this is the file which will be executed when the user click the submit button. That file is the one here I am writing, this one. So here I just write the PHP, and this is the one you get the value $_post, because I'm using the post method here. Since I'm using the post method, you have to write the $_post. In case if I use the get method, use the word get here. Use the method word get here. Then this will get the value of the variable name. Name is the one we have given here actually, this one. That one is the one which is representing this value inside the text box. And then the email address you can get using the same $_post email. Email is this one, because that is the one I have given for the email, this one. So by using that, you can get the two values of the page you have entered, and that will be displayed in the page as a welcome to your name, and your email address is this one. That is how you can get the multiple values from the web page and pass to the another page. If I use a get method here instead of the post, remember, if I use a get method here, only thing is it is insecure and your data will be visible through the URL. It's not good for the password like, because others can see your password in the URL. So if I use a get method, you have to use a $_get here to get the value. If I use a post, you have to use the post $_post to get the value. Which one to use, get method or post method as a method? Remember, both can be used, but only problem is get is not good. Why? Because your variable values are visible in the URL. Post method is very good because it doesn't show your values in the URL. And the problem is that get method is visible everyone, all the variables that you are passing, and it has a limitation of the size of the number of characters you can pass, and it will be very create a big issue when you're using the most critical data, because the critical data will be visible in the URL. Therefore, better to use with the post method where your data will not be visible in the URL. And the problem here is that you can't get the bookmarking. And again, there's no size limitations like in the get method. Now, this is another example. Let's say I want to create a form like this, and then where I have to put the name, address, date of birth, and the school. So then you can create the forms. I think you can remember how to create this form. You can use this form to create the form, and this is the action, and this is a method. And here we create the input type text field. You can give this name to get the value inside the text field. Another text field where you can get the next value, another text field. So we have the address here, and next text field we have the date of birth. Next text field we have the school. And when the user click the submit button, remember this file will be executed. That is test1.php will be executed. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to get the value user is filled and display each value one by one. For that, you can write I want to display like this. When the user fill the values, name, address, date of birth, and the school, I want to display like this. Then to get the value, you can write the method for this test1.php like this. So first I am getting the name because I give the variable name as this one. Yeah. HTML is actually for describing the web page. But you can't do the programming with the HTML, like addition, subtraction, looping, selection, if then else can't be done with the HTML. But you can do that with the PHP. So this is the way you can get the value using $_post. This is the name, this is the address, this is the date of birth, and this is school. So because we have given those, when you are creating the, we are creating the page here. Those are the names you have given. Like here you can see this is a name, this is address, this is a date of birth, this is school. Like you can get each value one by one. So since we have a post method, we have to use the $_post here, like this. So you can get each value and display using the PHP codes. Now the example was given. You can just go through. I will share the slides how to do that work actually. Then let's see how you can work with the loops with the PHP. We can do the programming as I told you. One of the important thing is we want to make a loop. So this can be done in the PHP. As an example for while loop, the same syntax we can use like earlier. Only difference is that while loop body is started by curly brackets, ended by curly brackets. So as an example given here, I have to have the variables is starting value. Now this should be with the PHP code, and starting value is 1, and there's a condition. So there I want to run this one 5 times. Therefore I write x less than or equal 5. Then it runs 5 times. So then I want to display this message with the variable value here 5 times, and the variable should be incremented by 1. And the starting of the loop represented by the curly bracket, ending also represented by curly brackets. That is the body of the loop. So very simple way you can create a while loop. I think it's not difficult. This is another example. Same syntax you can use. And you have the do while. In the do while, the only difference is condition is tested at the bottom. Like in the previous one, you can see condition tested at the beginning. While check the condition. But here you can see the condition will be tested when the code is executed at least once. So in this one, you can see we set the value of the variable to 1 and execute this and increment the value and check the condition. If the condition run true, it runs again. But if the condition is false, exit. Here the difference is the body will be executed at least once. Even the condition is true or false, it will be executed. But in the previous one, in the while loop, it won't be executed when the condition is false. But in this case, even the condition is false, it runs at least minimum once. So that's the key difference between the while loop and the do while loop. This is an example. We start with 6 and increment the variable and check the condition. We know condition is false, exit. Therefore, a line will be executed at least once even the condition false. But that would not be occurred in the normal while loop. And we can have the PHP for loop. So like we have to have the initial value, condition, and increments. And the starting and the end of the body is represented by curly brackets again. As an example here, we have a for loop start with x is 0 and run x less than or equal 5, that means 6 times altogether, and the variable I is incremented by 1. So then curly brackets say what is starting and the end. So then it display the number is this. It runs from 0 to 5, that means 6 times. This is another example where start with 0, go up to 50, but increment by 10, x incremented by 10. Then there's a another loop with the PHP we call as a PHP for each, and then you can have the whatever that variable name, and then you have the value of that variable. Accordingly, you can run it or execute it. As an example here, I have an array with 4 values, which is named as a colors. Then you can write for each value from the array colors as a value. So then value means each value red, green, blue, yellow. So then it will display those values. So you can access to each value using the array name and the value. So you can do the same work with the associate arrays also. The next important one is how to create a function with PHP. Remember, we can create the functions with the PHP. Normally, functions are used to do multiple tasks with a single name. And then once you write a function, that function can be used by the others. As example, we have already used some functions like echo function, print functions. And these functions are already someone developed, but you are using them without writing it again and again. That's the advantage of the function. When someone wrote a function, by using the function name, we can use it again and again without redeveloping it again and again. So we have some built-in functions like echo function and these print functions, like those functions are already there. So you can use these built-in functions. But here we are going to discuss not the built-in functions, the functions that can be developed by ourselves. So how to create our own function? Use the keyword function and the function name, and whatever the parameters or arguments you want to pass, and the codes. The codes start with the curly brackets and ended by the curly brackets. So this way you can create your own functions. So in that case, you have to give the function names. Okay. And then function name should start with the letter or underscore. You can't use special characters. You can't start with the numbers. Remember, in the function name is not case sensitive. Either capital simple, no matter for the functions. But remember, the capital symbols are matters for the variables, not for the functions. So most of the functions you need to pass some parameters or arguments. Accordingly, it does some work. Like we discussed previously, these methods where we want to do the reading and writings, like echo function, print functions, like that. Now this is an example how to create a function. So here we use the keyword function, and you can give any name and the variables. So in this case, when I'm running, I just give this value, then this value will be mapped to here. Then in display, my name is that one. Like that, you can display the each values for 3 of them. These another functions, but this function you pass 3 values or 3 arguments: name, age, country. So therefore, you have to pass 3 values: name, age, country. Then you can see the first person, these values will be printed, or these values will be mapped. Then you can display the name, age, and country like this. So that way you can pass the values to the function name and get the output accordingly. Remember, in the functions, always you need to have some function arguments and the return values. So in this one, actually, function names and the initial value is there. Remember, initial value of the variable is 10. The initial variable is 10. So therefore, when you call the functions like this value will be 2 will be replaced here. Then display 2 first. Next time it get the 25. Then display 25. Next one is nothing. If it is nothing, it gets a value 10. This 10 is coming if it is nothing. Like that. So in a functions, you can have some return values. As an example here, in this function, you can remember use the word function to give the function name. And here I call the functions. In that case, these two values will be mapped. These two values will be mapped and then does the addition and return. So therefore, most of the time in the functions, you can have some return values so that others can do something with the return values. Then the last part of this one is a PHP connection. Remember in the exams, definitely you will get a question from this. But this look like very difficult, but nothing difficult actually. Don't remember the codes, but just understand how to work with these codes without memorizing it actually. Because in the exams, most of the time you will be given the code, but you need to understand the code. That's all. Don't try to memorize the very complex codes. Now, in the database, remember before you work with database, first of all, you have to create a connections. You have to create a connections, and then you can do whatever the reading and writing or to the content of the database. For that, actually, PHP and later versions, actually, we have different ways. One is MySQL I means improved, PDO, PHP data objects method. Both MySQL and PHP methods have their advantages actually. And PDO will work with 12 different databases, whereas the other one actually only working with PDO is working with 12 different databases, but MySQL I'll only work with the MySQL database. That is the difference between the PDO methods and the MySQL method. So we discuss each method, but don't try to remember the codes, but just understand. So in database connections, actually, we have different ways to connect MySQL object-oriented method, MySQL I procedural method, and the PDO methods. Like you can use three methods to make the connections. Now, first one is object-oriented way. So remember to create the connections, you need to provide the server name, username, and password. And this is the function which creates the connection. So then you give the server name, username, and password, create a connection. Once you create the connection is identified by this variable, PHP variable. So this is we call as a connection variable. That is the one which we use to make the connections. And then using that return value or connections, we can check whether connection is successful or not. Here it is okay, here it is an error. So like that, the connection can be tested. So then don't try to remember these codes, but just understand what are these. And the next one is actually procedural way. How to create the connection is a procedural way. Again, you have to have the the parameters like server name, username, and the password. And this is the function now which creates the connection. And once you get the connection, you get the connection string. And using this condition, we can check whether the connection is successful or there's an error. That is the way you can check the connections. And the PDO, PHP data object method. This is the code where you can create the connection using the PDO methods. So in that case, also you need to provide the server name, username, and password. And this is the function which creates the connection, PDO. So where you pass the server name, username, and password. And once you create it, you get the connection strings like this. And then you can check whether connection is successful or not here. Now, this is an example how you can create a database using the connection that we have created. So initially, you need to provide the server name, username, and password. And you create a connection. This is the function which will create the connections. And then this will check the connection is successful or not. Then remember to create the database, we need to write the SQL query. This is SQL query. Create database name. So that's SQL query. And through the connection string, where we have the connection or the whatever that SQL statement is here, then this will run the SQL statement. So then this create a database name as MyDB. That is how you can get the database. So here create the connection, use the connection string is this one. And then through the connection string and through the SQL statement, you can create the connections and then create a database name as MyDB. This is an example again to create a database using the other methodology. You have to provide the server name, username, and password, create the connection, and check whether the connection is successful or not. And this is a SQL statement, create database name. Now this is the function which will run the connection and the SQL statement both together through the given connections. According to the results, you can say whether it is successful or not. So then most time in the exam paper, these codes will be given, but something is missing. Then you should understand what value should be placed actually, because there are no many things to remember here. Then this is the way you can create the database with the PDO way. So in that case, you have to give the server name, username, and password, create the connections, and then set the attributes for the connections. And then you can run the SQL statement. So this SQL statement, create database name, and then using this through the connection string, you can execute the SQL statement to create a database. Create database name. So this will be executed and create a database. This is how you can insert the data once you create a database using the object-oriented methods. So initially, you need to create the connection always. For that, you have to give the username, password, and server name should be given and database name because database is already created. Therefore, database name should be given. And then you can create the connection using MySQLi, where you have to give the server name, username, password, and database name should be given. Then it connects the database, and this will check whether the connection is successful. And then you can write the SQL statement to insert the data, insert into table name. And these are the values you're going to insert. Full name, first name is John, last name is Doi, and the email address. So that you're going to insert these values to the in the given table name as MyDB. And this is the place where you can run the SQL statement and insert the new records. That is how you can insert the data to given database. This is how you can insert the data in the MySQL procedural way. So again, you need to have the server name, username, and password, and the database name. And this will create a connection. And then this will check whether the connection is successful or not. And this is a SQL statement where you want to insert data, insert into table name, and the values, table column names, and the values are there. Then this is the one which will execute the SQL statement given connection. This is a connection string. Through that we can create the connection. And this will successfully insert the given data to the given database. Then how you can do insert the data is the PDO. That's the last one. So basically, how do you do that? You have to give the username, server name, and password and database name. And this is a place you create the connections. This will create the connection. After that, you have to run the SQL statement, insert into given table with these values. And then you can execute it like this. So basically, these are the key points we want to learn about actually in PHP. Any questions you have? Just I will share the recordings again. Please study this. This is not difficult one. Just write the code. Then this will be very easier. Okay, right. Thank you for joining. I'll share the recording for you to study again.